Hello, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public information meeting. We're here to discuss the proposed zoning bylaw amendment from the Halton District School Board for the property at 1039 Dundas Street West. My name is Natalie Hickey. I'll be the primary presenter tonight, and I'm joined by my colleagues from Strategy 4, the planners acting as the applicant for this proposal on behalf of the school board. We also have school board staff here, as well as planning staff from the Town of Oakville. So the presentation tonight will follow this agenda that you see here. And first, we will be inviting HDSB trustee Kelly Amos to say a few words. And followed that, we will be presenting some decorum and instructions on how to submit questions. We will then describe the need for the secondary school in North Oakville and the context for the school in the proposed location. We'll also be going through the details of the zoning bylaw amendment and a description of the site design and layout, some servicing details, as well as a summary of the supporting studies that have been undertaken by the school board and provided to the town through the application. And finally, we will be answering questions that have been submitted through the online form. So I'd like to now invite Trustee Kelly Amos from the Halton District School Board to say a few words.
Thank you, Natalie. Welcome to everyone who is here to see this presentation about the rezoning. I am the trustee for Oakville Wards 5 and 7 and have been your trustee since for most of the time since 2000. So I am a long-term trustee, and I know that this is a very exciting time for all of us because we have been advocating to get a high school in the North East Oakville area for a long time. And so this is one of the first steps that is taking place to make it happen. Back in July, the Minister of Education came out and announced $33.6 million for this 1,200 pupil school. And as you may not be aware, but a high school takes 3 to 4 years to build. And so it's a long process because it's a large building that has a lot of students. And so, as I said, this is a very exciting time and for one of the first steps. I'd also like to acknowledge that the Director of Education, Stuart Miller, and the Superintendent for the area, Colette Ruddock, are also on this call. Anyways, again, welcome, and I'll turn it back to Natalie.
Thank you, Trustee Amos. And I'd like to go over first some meeting decorum and proceedings to ensure that everyone is aware of how this meeting is going to run and to make sure that it runs smoothly. So we will be providing a presentation based on the proposal as it has been presented to the Town of Oakville through the formal planning process. And the subject matter of this presentation tonight will be strictly the contents of this rezoning application. Now, after the presentation portion, the board staff and the consulting team will respond to questions as they've been submitted through the online form. We'd also like to note that questions unrelated to the zoning bylaw amendment may not be addressed at this time. To access the question form, please visit the HDSB website. If you search Oakville NE #1 High School project, there's a button and a link that will take you to the live stream question form. You can also find that at the top of the page, and that will direct you to a separate window at which you can submit your question. And that window looks like this. The form will ask you for your postal code, your email, and to type your question. And just to reiterate, any questions that are not related to the zoning bylaw amendment material will not be addressed as part of this meeting. So before discussing the proposed site for the new school, I'd like to note the Halton District School Board long-term accommodation plan from 2019-2020, and Trustee Amos touched on this earlier. This document identifies the need to open the Oakville Northeast High School by the year 2023-2024 school year, and this is to address enrollment pressures. So as of October 2020, 734 secondary students live in Oakville north of Dundas Street, and these students are attending secondary schools south of Dundas. So in July 2020, the Ministry of Education approved funding for this proposed secondary school, and as such, the board continues to advance this project to meet the targeted opening date. The proposed Oakville Northeast High School site will be at 1039 Dundas Street West, which is shown here on the map, and it's approximately 250 meters west of the intersection of Dundas and Nayagawa. So the image here shows the two parcels that will make up the school property, and the southern portion, outlined in blue, is the current location of the Saints Peter and Paul Serbian Orthodox Parish, and the northern portion is owned by the Town of Oakville, and that's the portion outlined in red, and this is part of the existing 16-mile sports complex. So properties that are subject of any zoning bylaw amendment are required to conform to the Town of Oakville official plan, which is called the Livable Oakville Plan, as well as any other applicable secondary plans and guidelines. Now, the North Oakville East Secondary Plan and the Livable Oakville Plan both designate this property as a secondary school location. So the image that you see on your screen to the left is the North Oakville East Secondary Plan map, and you can see this proposed school site outlined in red. The northern portion of this site is designated in this secondary plan as a community park area, and the southern portion of the land is designated as the Dundas Street Urban Core area. And you'll see there as well with the light blue oval is a high school overlay, and the stormwater management facility is the dark green oval there. Now, a secondary school at this location, while conforming to the official plan, also ultimately allows the Halton District School Board to fulfill one of the key intentions of the plan, which is to create a campus of activities in this North Park Master Plan area. So the image on the right here shows the proposed school site in red, and it also shows some surrounding areas. So the 16-mile sports complex is in purple, the dog park and the North Park lands in the light blue and the dark green to the north. The Trafalgar Lawn Cemetery is in the light green to the east, and the existing Saints Peter and Paul Parish, which is planned to remain at this location, is shown in pink. The existing residential communities in orange, and finally the existing commercial and retail plazas in the dark blue. Now, we'd like to highlight here with this slide the key elements of the proposed school site, which includes a 3-story school building, approximately 60 classrooms, and to accommodate 1,200 students. We've also shown here possible portable classrooms that may be built in the future, as well as the sports field and the running track to the north of the building. It is important to note, and we'd like to highlight here, that following the zoning bylaw amendment would be a site plan approval process, and this would provide further details on the specifics of the site elements and the configuration. Now, all properties north of Dundas Street in Oakville, which would include the site that we're discussing tonight, are subject to the policies of the North Oakville Zoning By-law. So currently the site in this North Oakville Zoning By-law 2009-19, the north portion of this site is zoned P, which is the park zone, and the southern portion is zoned ED, which is existing development zone. And that's shown in the image on the right on your screen. And the purpose of the application we're discussing tonight is to rezone this property to the institutional zone, the I zone, which would permit a secondary school, associated parking, and the sports field and running track, as we've shown you. There's also will be special provisions associated with this zoning bylaw amendment, which will allow a greater front yard depth and a lesser minimum floor space index. So these provisions are shown in summary on the image on the left. Next, I'd like to go through the site design and layout as it's been presented as part of the zoning bylaw amendment. So there will be 141 parking spaces along the eastern part of the site, which works out to approximately 1.95 spaces per classroom, including provisions for the future portables. The zoning bylaw currently requires secondary school sites to provide parking at a ratio of a minimum of 1 space per classroom and a maximum of 3 spaces per classroom. So the proposed 1.95 spaces per classroom is within this permitted range. The parking area on this diagram here is labeled with the light blue. Now, vehicle access to the site will be provided with a right-in, right-out driveway on Dundas Street West, as well as an all-moves driveway at the portion of the 16-mile drive which will be extended from Nayagawa Boulevard to the school site. And you can see these access points with the red arrows at the southern portion and the northern portion of the site. There are proposed bus laybys associated with the secondary school, which are shown with a yellow label, and they're located on the east side of the building. There's also car laybys for parent drop-off, which would be on the east and the south portions of the building, shown in orange. The HDSB will be constructing a multi-use path along Dundas Street West, which is shown in purple along the southern portion of the diagram there, which will help to facilitate pedestrian access to the site, labeled with the dark blue arrows. There'll be pedestrian access from Dundas Street and also from the 16-mile drive extension. Finally, there will be bike parking provided over and above the requirements of the zoning bylaw, and this will be generally located to the southeast corner of the building towards the main entrance of the school, and that's shown with the green text there on the image. Now, as I mentioned earlier, and we'd like to reiterate that the specific details of the site layout and design will be reviewed by town staff and refined through the site plan approval process. At the zoning bylaw amendment stage, a description of how the site will be serviced is required, and this includes sanitary servicing, water servicing, and stormwater management. And in order to do this, a functional servicing and stormwater management report was submitted to town staff with this application. And in summary, this report indicates that the school can be adequately serviced with sanitary, water, and stormwater services, and that the development of the school block will not affect or preclude the development of surrounding properties in the future. Sanitary and water services for the school will be extended from Nayagawa Boulevard along the 16-mile drive extension, and stormwater will be generally managed on site through a series of low-impact design features, and these include dry retention swales, which will ultimately drain to the existing stormwater swale along Dundas Street. This diagram here shows the functional servicing as it has been laid out, and that's the water and sanitary along 16 Mile, as well as the new dry retention facilities on site and the existing swale that you can see along Dundas Street. The list here describes many of the supporting studies that were required for the zoning bylaw amendment application and that have been submitted to town staff. These include a waste management report, a transportation impact analysis, arborist report and tree plan, an environmental implementation report, a noise study, a geotechnical and slope stability study, archaeological study, and an urban design brief. And all of these reports can be reviewed in detail on the Town of Oakville website for this application. So that was an overview of the application. And we'd now like to move into the portion of the presentation that will answer your questions as they've been submitted through the online form.
Perfect. Thank you, Natalie. The first question that we've received is, many residents and local businesses have raised concerns about parking and traffic in the surrounding area. Could you provide details to those watching about how parking and traffic are being studied and managed with the town's support? Thank you. So I'll provide that question to strategy for staff, Natalie and Jeff.
Great, thank you, Fred. This application, as mentioned, contains a robust parking study, which was prepared to the Town of Oakville's terms of reference. So the study is currently under review with the town, and the proposed parking ratio, as described earlier in the presentation, is within the zoning bylaw requirements at 1.95 spaces per classroom. So this being said, there's no site-specific requirements for parking required through this application.
So if there are no other questions at this time, we'll provide a little bit more of a window if anybody wants to submit some questions. Again, you can submit questions by utilizing the form that Natalie had presented to, which is also accessible on the page where you're currently viewing this video. So we'll wait a couple more minutes and see if anybody else has any other questions to ask, and we'll go from there. right, we have one more question that's arrived. We are having a number of parking issues at current HDSB sites in North Oakville. Have those same issues been addressed even with this ratio in mind? I'll pass that on to Natalie to respond to, or Jeff.
Jeff, would you like to respond to this? I know you have experience with some other HDSB sites in North Oakville.
Sure, no problem. For everybody watching, my name is Jeff Kenny. I'm one of the principals of Strategy 4 and one of the co-applicants with Natalie. So we are aware of the existing issues elsewhere in North Oakville, and we have the potential of addressing, as Natalie has said, we have provided a parking ratio which is within the context of the town's requirements for the zoning bylaw. And we're also exploring through the process the potential of a shared parking arrangement for overflow with the town and its adjacent rec center. So that is one mechanism that is being explored in principle through the application in order to overcome what some have deemed as being an underperformance of the zoning bylaw. I think that that's what the questionnaire is adequately referring to. So aside from meeting the town's parking ratio bylaw, we are expressing to the town the desire to potentially explore a shared parking ratio for overflow.
One other thing I would add to this as well, this is a secondary school, so there will be a little bit more propensity for active modes of transportation, a little bit different than what we've seen in other facilities that are elementary in nature. And we will be exploring TDM measures or traffic demand management measures that try to encourage alternate forms of transportation as well to reduce overall individuals driving to school instead of using the bus and or active modes of transportation like walking, cycling, or rollerblading.
And I see there's another question here. Fred, would you like to read that question? I'll go ahead and field it as well.
Thank you. So the question is, how will you ensure that parking at the school will not overflow on the church and other properties nearby?
So again, the zoning bylaw is the primary tool that the municipality uses to ensure there is no adverse impact on on adjacent properties around schools. Again, we are meeting the zoning bylaw. There is no site-specific criteria requested, and it's expected that the church will also be able to meet the zoning bylaw. Although they don't have a plan yet put forward, there is expected to be ample space to accommodate parking there. So provision of parking within a zoning bylaw as mandated by the municipality is the key test here, and the application does stand on its own in that regard.
Further to that, I'll also add, operationally speaking, as we're working with schools, if there are issues, like we've seen in other sites in the area, if the school is notified, then we can definitely coordinate with our neighbors to make sure that if there are issues present, that we will address them proactively. We'll provide a few more moments, and if there's no other questions after that, then we'll call a close to this public information meeting. So we'll wait a few more moments. All right, with that, doesn't appear to have any new responses. So I would like to thank everyone that's attended tonight's meeting. And on behalf of the Halton District School Board, thank you. And if there's any further questions that you may have, there's some contact information that's present on the website that you currently accessed the live stream for this. And we will continue to post updates here as the project moves along. Natalie, Kelly, if you have anything to add, I'll pass the floor over to you. All right, so with that,
Nope, that's great. Thank you.
all right, well, thank you, everyone. It's much appreciated.